Milk and Condoms? What? What kind of channel name is that? Milk and Condoms? Did you say Milk and Condoms?
Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Milk and Condoms with Mack, where you and I can have conversations that are unfiltered, transparent, authentic, bold, and yes, inspirational. So how did Milk and Condoms come along? Well, one morning about 6 o'clock in the morning, I was dying for a bowl of cereal. And I went in the kitchen, poured up my cereal, got the sugar all sprinkled on it, and I went in the refrigerator to get some milk, went to pour my milk, and y'all, it was just a corner of milk left in the carton. I was pissed because I really wanted my cereal, doggone it. So mama bear that I am, I marched my little self back to my girl's bedroom, busted in the door like Oprah busted through the cornfield in Color Purple. And I'm sitting here like, who was the inconsiderate Negro that drank up all the milk and had the nerve to leave a corner of milk in the refrigerator? And they're looking at me like, Mommy, like, what are you talking about? Mommy, what? Do you know what time it is? Everybody up in here got to get up because I want to know who the inconsiderate one was that drank up all the milk and just left the corner. You know how inconsiderate it is? Anyway, I went from there from 0 to 100. I don't know how I got from inconsideration about milk to talking about oral sex and condoms. But basically, that's what I did. I basically took it from there to, you know how inconsiderate it is to leave milk, a little sip of milk in the refrigerator. It's just as inconsiderate as some of these little Negroes around here asking y'all to have oral sex in the girls' bathroom in school. You know why that's inconsiderate? Because let's walk through that day. All right, first of all, you know little boys, they nasty. They have wet dreams in the middle of the night. You know what that means? That means they ejaculate while they sleep. Now, they get up late trying to go to school, and so they run in the bathroom. They halfway brush their teeth. If they brush their teeth, they use the bathroom, and they probably don't even wipe their little penises off from the ejaculation from their wet dream that they had the night before, because they trying to run to catch the bus. So they run in to catch the bus, and you know how hot it is in South Florida. So as they run in to catch the bus, all that friction on their balls, they got the sweaty balls and all that. They done got on the school bus. Now they got sweaty balls that sticky too because they ain't wiped themselves properly from their little wet dream. Then they go to school. Then they probably have PE sometime like first, second period. And you know y'all don't take showers at PE like we used to take showers in PE.
So that means they got the sweaty, sticky, funky balls from the night before, plus running to the bus stop, plus PE balls. And then they want to hit you up, text you, hit you up, tell me meet them in the bathroom. And then they want to meet you in the bathroom and expect you to put your lips on their dirty, nasty, funky, stinky balls that they done washed from the night before. Okay, that's how inconsiderate leaving a little corner of milk is in the kitchen, in the refrigerator. Okay?
So that's kind of the gist of the conversation. Can't exactly remember how I got around to condoms in that conversation, but they've always remembered the morning mommy woke them up mad about milk and ended up talking somehow about sweaty balls and condoms. So that's how my channel got its name, because that's how real I keep it. I like to have conversations where there is no filter, there is no harm intended, but understand that this is real talk trying to help real people who've been through some real stuff. So, you know, if you got all your stuff together and you one of them people, them sisters that's all put together on the outside, good for you. But if you're someone who knows you have some work to do on the inside, hang out with me and let's talk about it. Let's talk about why I was motivated to actually do this channel. The motivation for this actually came 15 years ago when the Lord gave me a directive to use my life as an example of what not to do. So let's talk about who Mack is really quickly before we wrap up this video. The best way for me to do that is to just show you who I am by reading you the intro to my very first book. This book was really an effort to heal myself. I had no idea that it was going to resonate with so many other people. Okay, so here's my book, The List. Every girl has a story. She must someday be woman enough to tell. I'm going to read the introduction, but I'm going to skip around a little bit, skip over some parts, so you just get the gist of my background so we can kind of get through this kind of quickly. All right, here we go. Checking it twice.
Are you kidding me? How hard can this freaking be? And why the hell am I even doing this in the first place?
What's the point, I thought, as I scribbled indiscriminately through the names in my journal while vigorously rubbing my left temple into tiny circles. There I sat, completely dumbfounded that it had taken me the better part of an hour to list all the sexual partners of my past. It took so long because I was trying to recall the exact order that each of our paths had crossed. But the frustration of that task soon gave way to my desperate attempt to go back and fill in the last names of 10 of the guys on the list.
Damn, that's almost a quarter of the list.
Never mind, I only knew 2 of those bastard 10 by their nicknames or criminal aliases.
How the hell can you sleep with 2 somebodies and you don't even know their government names?
But I didn't dwell on that too long once I eyeballed the word twin, which stuck out like a dislocated bone in the closet of my throbbing mind. Yep, twin. That's all I could scribble because I was never quite sure which one it was that I hooked up with in the backseat of that car that one night at Hollover Beach.
All I know is their names rhymed.
And finally, there was the one guy that for the life of me, I honestly couldn't remember if I'd ever slept with him at all. Dang, 40? 40? For real? 40?
Okay, homegirl, you never were good at math. Maybe you double or triple counted somebody.
I thought as I flipped my pencil over and used the eraser to count the list for the 3rd time.
But how is that even possible? I'm barely 24.
I wondered as I created my own word problem.
Question. If Tammy is 24 years old and she started having sex at age 14, yep, that's right, 14, and she's already hooked up with 40 guys, then how long did it take her to amass such an extensive list?
Even though I'm no mathematician, it took me only a few pencil strokes to figure out the answer.
24 years old minus 14 years old equals 10. 10. The answer is 10 years.
I was pretty proud of how quickly I figured out the answer until the reality of that number actually sunk in. Ooh, that would equate to about 1 guy every 3 months, unless you take into account the fact that I had 3 monogamous relationships during about 2.5 years of that time. I sighed deeply, rolled my neck from side to side to help relieve the mounting tension, and then aimlessly fixed my gaze on the LED lights adorning the cafe's dark ceiling.
Geez, 40 guys in 8 years. That would mean that I had even less time to rack up this freaking list.
I thought as I continued staring upwards, desperately hoping the harsh reality I just uncovered would somehow disappear into the blackness beyond the ceiling. It's so wild how life has a way of eventually smacking you in the face. Before walking into the coffee shop that day, I'd never really considered myself to be a hoe. I mean, it's not like I'd just been out sleeping around with any and everybody. But as I gazed back down at my journal, I just couldn't help trying to come up with any other possible way to justify that stupid list.
Heck, most of these guys are my boyfriend at some point or another, right?
But before I could answer myself, Mama's voice popped into the forefront of my mind. Her frequent warning ringing so loudly inside my head, my brain actually rattled.
You change boyfriends more than you change your drawers.
I used to think Mama's country sayings were old-fashioned and overdramatic, but by the looks of things, there really was a time in my life when clean underwear and new boyfriends were running neck and neck. Resigned that it was way too late to put the kitty back in the cage, I began wondering, well, where do I go from here?
I know. Since I can't remember everybody in exact order, why don't I just categorize them?
I adjusted my journal a few inches to the right and spent the next few minutes reshuffling the names into groups on the back side of the facing page, and chuckling as I cleverly nicknamed each group.
Let's see. There were the thugs, the scrubs, the sort of loves, and the just becauses.
After reshuffling the list of names into their respective categories, I was once again astounded. All my life, I've categorized myself as having an affinity for bad boys and thugs. You know the type.
They sold a little something something, or smoked or snorted a little something something, or stole a little something something, or caught a case for a little something something.
But lo and behold, according to the list, there were only 5 true thugs in the whole bunch. Okay, maybe in hindsight, I now realize that some of those brothers that as a teen I considered to be bad boys were in all actuality scrubs perpetrating like thugs. Scrubs, you know the type. The between brothers.
Between high school graduation and GEDs, between jobs, between cars, between having their own apartments and living with their mamas, between baby mamas and child support payments, between being locked up and being off probation, between lady luck, bad luck, hard luck, or some other sob story.
There were 9 scrubs in all. Then there were the sort of loves. These were the 4 guys in my past that left a favorable mark in my memories. In their own ways, they each made me feel special. if only for a season. One represented my first true crush who for years kept creeping in and out of my life. The second represented someone who tried to convince me that I was worth far more than the way that I was acting and the friends that I had chosen to hang around. The third had the most vibrant personality I'd ever met and proved to be one of the biggest challenges I'd ever faced. And the last literally started out as a sick game that I was trying to run on a younger guy. But by the time the script got flipped, I was already emotionally caught up.
How odd is it that when I look back over my sexual history, the list of names that I associate with love turns out to be the shortest list of all.
And last, but by no means least, there were the 22 just becauses.
Just because I could, just because he was fine, just because I was bored or lonely, just because he was chocolate and fine, just because I was a virgin when we dated and I decided to backtrack for just one night, just because he was sexy and fine, just because he looked a lot like the finest guy on campus who I'd lusted after for over a year, just because he had a gorgeous smile and was fine, just because he was a highly acclaimed college football player who might one day go pro, just because he was slim and tall and fine, just because he was a challenge, just because he was fine.
Hello, do we see a pattern here? Truth is, although my definition of fine was adjustable at times, considering the fact that I stand almost 6 feet tall and have silky chocolate skin myself, you can put money on the fact that any Mr. Flexibly Fine that would turn my head would have to have 3 specific assets at a minimum. The brother had to be tall.
Duh.
He needed to be brown-skinned or darker.
Like my chocolate.
And finally, he had to have a warm yet sly smile. As I sat reminiscing, I sadly concluded that not a single one of the just becauses meant much of anything to me. Truth be told, 1 or 2 were simply personal conquests. A couple were just plain old fine. And more than a couple were fun to hang out with for just a minute. But for the most part, after our brief liaisons ended, the only real reason I could come up with for having slept with all those guys is simply
just be damn cuz.
And there you have it. That's who I am. That's my past. But what I can assure you is this, while you're still tripping on my list, I can assure you this. Nobody wakes up one day and says,
I know, I want to be a hoe.
Doesn't work like that. So what were the things in my life that made me choose that path, that made me choose so many Mr. Wrongs and experiment with so many Mr. Wrongs? But even more important than that, examine yourself. Look down inside yourself. How would you categorize those brothers you dealt with? Do you typically deal with the thugs? Do you like the bad boys, the dudes with that little bit of edge on them?
You know, girl, I like my Negro thugged out, the grilled out, all that. Yeah, I like me a hard dude.
Or is your list full of just becauses?
Just because he's good to look at. Just because I'm lonely. Just because I ain't have nothing better to do. Just because he hollered at me. Just because he'll do for now. Just because he's cute. Just because. Just because.
You don't even know why yourself. Or is your list full of scrubs when you think about it? The dude who don't never have nothing but always needs you.
He needs you to drop him off around the corner because he don't have a car or his car broke down. He needs you to loan him $5 or $10 till next week. He needs you to come around there and bring him something to eat, you know, some McDonald's or some Subway. He needs you to do his homework. He needs you to be his girl. Boy, bye.
So what I want you to do is hit me up in the box down below. Tell me what your type is and what your experience has been with that type. And tell me what Mr. Right actually looks like. While we're at it, call up your girlfriend. Girl, you got to check out this YouTube channel, Condoms with Ty Mack. Till next time, I'm Ty Mack. Love you.